Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to this evening or this afternoon's Liquitex acrylic class. We'll be featuring basics acrylic, and it has somewhat of a patriotic theme to it. We are going to be painting on a dark canvas, which is something new. We wanted to try out some new backgrounds, give you a little more inspiration. And what we're going to do is a willow style fireworks display. There's going to be lots of celebrations coming up, the holidays, celebrations of life. So I just want everybody to enjoy the class. And at the end, I'd love to see your creations. So I'm going to introduce Marla Morrison, who is one of our Liquitex artists. And I'll be on the chat. If you need any questions answered, feel free to put it out there and we'll take care of it as best as we can. All right. Enjoy yourself.
Thanks, Jeannie. Thanks so much, guys. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm really excited about painting this firework piece with you. And hi to everyone who reached out prior to just say that you're going to join me. That's really great to hear. I love that. And there was someone that contacted me about a palette knife and I couldn't get back to you. So I just want to say any palette knife you have, it will be fine. It's just for doing some color mixing. So it doesn't absolutely have to be this size 16. Okay, so don't worry about that. All right, so let's get started and I will walk you through this fun project. All right. So Himana mentioned some of the tags. Here they are written out if you're like me and you need to see it. I think she put it in the chat, but just in case, here it is. Obviously, Liquitex Official is the site that's great for all things Liquitex specific. There's going to be interesting information about different artists and artist residency opportunities and things like that. So I highly recommend following that. TFAC-NA stands for the Fine Art Collective North America. And this is a great Instagram site to follow if you're really into the concept of technical information, like some of which we'll share today. But if you get into using acrylics or using watercolor, any other type of media, you'll find interesting videos and artist chats on this site. And then this is me at Marla Morrison Art. I would love to connect with you personally. And if you ever have questions about our materials, I'm happy to help via that site. And then of course, as she mentioned, hashtag Make It With Michaels and hashtag Michaels Classes. And that's a great way for us to see what you guys do with this class. So as Jeannie mentioned, we're working on a dark background for this firework piece. I have to tell you that I did not have the cool pre-prime black canvas. So if you're like me and you didn't have the chance to get that, you can start with a white canvas and then use something called the Liquitex Black Gesso. This is an older label, but I'm sure Michaels could order it for you, or you can order it online from michaels.com. If you don't have the Black Gesso, which gives this really dark velvety background and it's completely opaque, you could use a black paint, but be aware that you'll probably need several coats of a black paint to get it this dark and rich. So ideally, you can just start with the black coated or pre-primed canvas. Now, one other thing to notice, when I did this, I had a smaller size. This is a 10 by 10. We're working on a 12 by 12. So don't let that, be a bother to you. We'll just get to have slightly bigger fireworks. Okay. I'll put this in front of us here. Might need to adjust my setup just a little bit. And then I have 3 of our basics acrylic colors. One thing I really love about this project, besides, the fact that it's Flag Day and it's super festive to be painting fireworks on Flag Day, is that this can be made with just 3 colors. If you've never used acrylics before, they're quite user-friendly. You just use water to clean your brushes or thin the color as needed. And you can use a little soap and water if you accidentally get it on your hands or whatnot. Make sure that if you get it on your clothing that you wash and launder it right away. Don't let it dry for hours because then it will be very permanent. If you're curious about the different pigments that we use, you can find that information on the back of our tubes. And one little thing to show you, because I found this helpful when I was starting painting, is to understand some of the little labeling notations on the back. So if you can see that little white square, that tells you that this color, cadmium red deep hue, is a naturally opaque color. And all that means is when you're painting with it, it's going to very nicely cover whatever background you're working on. And then this color, for example, the ultramarine blue, which is the blue that we have, is semi-opaque, so it won't be quite as opaque as the cad red hue, but it's also going to have decent covering. I don't have a transparent color, another opaque in the titanium white. But if we had a transparent color, it would be like an open square. So that's just something that as you're choosing colors at Michael's, when you go in the store and you're looking at the tubes, that can give you some insight as to what exact one of the attributes of the color you're choosing and what it will do for you. So as you can, when you look at this painting, you'll see that there's a faint bit of blue at the bottom. It's kind of that nice reflective property that the night sky can have, kind of like city lights or whatnot underneath, or in this case, the reflection of the fireworks. So we're going to start with that, and we'll let that get touch dry as we mix some of the other colors. All right. So we do have, just to keep it simple, we just use one brush. If you had a bigger brush, you could certainly break it out now, but I am going to just use my Filbert size 4. This is the Liquitex Freestyle brush. It's a synthetic hog filament, which cracks me up because thinking of a little synthetic hog running around giving up its hair for brushes. But we call it a synthetic hog because it has the texture of a natural hog, but it is made from, you know, nylon fibers or fibers that are not from natural hair source. Okay. So we're going to take our ultramarine blue. We're just going to squeeze it right out of the tube. And I'm going to squeeze probably, I'd say that's a little over half a teaspoon. And we might need to squeeze out more, but I'm just going to start with that now. I'm trying to be conservative and not, you know, brush out too much paint, but we can, because you can always add more. And we're just going to start at the bottom. And remember, this is a semi-opaque color, so you can see that it's really nice for getting that kind of reflective property of the sky at night with lights, because it's not so opaque that that blue is covering the black completely. It's kind of just blending, or you could even say it's like you're glazing on that black background. Glazing is the concept of putting more transparent layers of color on top of each other. And the point of that is you can get a real luminosity and depth. And so in this case, because this is a semi-opaque pigment, it's allowing some of that black background to show through. And I think that integrates it really nicely with the rest of the night sky. So, and you can see from my light source that it has a sheen to it. When it dries, the basics colors kind of turn more satin to matte sheen. So just be aware of that. Because when you look at this piece, you can see it's dry. And so that blue is matte now. Okay, so that will happen to yours as well. And just play with it. You know, you can make it, you can add some kind of energetic brush strokes if you wanted to. I'm tending to want mine to be kind of just a horizontal lines, and they're going to have some energy based on the way I'm brushing it on the canvas. But, you know, if you wanted to kind of play with that more and do diagonals or kind of scribble it in, that's going to give you a different kind of active energy to your piece. Okay. So I'd say we're covering probably, just maybe the lower fifth of the canvas. Maybe I'll just add a little bit more proportionally here. So about the lower fifth. And I'm just, the way I say it is I'm kind of feathering with a slightly dry brush. I'm feathering it into the black at this top line here to allow that blue and black to kind of blend nicely. And you may be thinking, well, shoot, I can't see my blue at all. Don't worry, when it dries, you're going to see it a little better. The sheen kind of obscures it a little bit. But if you feel like it's still not, you know, blue enough for you, you can always go back to the bottom and add a little bit more to make it a little more obvious that it's a blue color kind of emanating from the bottom. Okay.
Hi, Marla. I'm just going to interrupt for just one moment. It looks fantastic. I was just going to ask you to pull it up to the camera. That's great.
Oh, okay.
To show some of, because I love how you're describing your energy of your strokes. But someone did ask, which I know you covered, that this canvas is available at Michael's already prepared and it's black. But in the beginning, you did reference that you could use Black Gesso.
Yes.
So it's not paper, it's canvas, because one of the artists is asking, you know, what the surface is that you're using. So hopefully we answered that for you. I will put the reference to the black canvas in the chat. So if you, it was also on the supply list, but it's looking really good. I was just going to say, I love, you know, the uncertainty of how it's going to come. Like, how will you, like you said, you're going to just like blend it or just stop like at a particular line?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to Yeah, I think what I'm going to do, and I'll pull it closer so you can
That's
see.
good. Yes.
So at the bottom, I've added like another layer of that ultramarine blue to make it a little more dominant visually. And then at the top, I'm just kind of brushing it out, and I guess I would just say kind of feathering it into that black background. So you can see there's paint there because of that wet sheen, but when it dries, it's going to be a very subtle transition from blue to black, which
Nice.
I
Very
think
nice.
is cool on that black background. Yeah, I really, in my own work, I love the dark background, especially if you feel, I mean, I don't know. I think it can happen to painters where, just like writers, you can get writer's block, looking at a blank white page. For some reason, having that black or dark background really helps free me up from feeling that, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's
I like it. Yeah.
It's like
and you put it together, the concept kept together. So for everyone in the room, it came together so quickly. Obviously, we were talking about festivities, and it's like we're all going to probably see this. Some of us, like whether you're by the water or whatever the reflection, but it's very relevant to what's happening. But it's just such a joyful, way that you're painting. The style is very, like you said, it's so pleasant.
Oh,
it
good.
really comes to life. So
good. Yeah.
even
Hopefully
I'm going to make this.
hey, well, you have to show everyone, and you have to tag it, because
Yes, I will.
that's, to me, that's one of the best parts of doing these classes, is seeing how people interpret it. Because people talk about the difference between art and craft, but really anytime you make something with your own hand, that is your art, because no one can make it exactly like you've done it, even if they're trying to. We're not robots. We can't get it exactly the same. So even though I'm giving you these step-by-steps, it's still going to be your piece, how you decide to lay it out on the surface, and how you use your brush and everything. But so what I did here is I kind of jumped up to, I would say, like about, I've split the rest of the black in half. I'll say it that way. So, and I just am doing maybe like an inch thick, or a little, maybe 3/4 inch thick line of blue, because in this piece, it's a little hard to tell because I've covered it with fireworks, but I did have like a slight blue band right in the middle. And I think that kind of helps integrate, that kind of light reflection. So that's all I'm doing here, is just adding a slight bit of that same ultramarine blue. My brush is fairly dry. Like I'm not taking this big glob of paint and putting it down. I'm taking just whatever blue is already on my brush and just kind of feathering it, or kind of scraping it in. And what that is doing is it's just giving kind of a light layer of that blue. All right, so while that has a chance to dry, I'm going to wipe off my brush. This is usually how I clean my brushes during painting. I'll have paper towels handy. I wipe off the excess paint, and then I have a water container handy. Like this is, you can see it, this is my trusty water container. I like that it has some ridges at the bottom, and so I just will use that to clean my brush in between colors. And if you don't have a container like this with like 2 or 3 different wells, you could have 2 cups of water. I find it's nice to have kind of like a dirty wash where you're getting most of the color, and then bring it over to a cleaner wash that stays relatively clean for most of the painting session, just to get any residual paint out of the brush. But that keeps you from having to constantly change your wash water. Okay. So let's do this. When you think about your fireworks, you want to take a moment to consider composition. And most of us, when we're looking at this, probably the red is going to stand out. Red is exciting to our eyes, and I've put it in the center, so that also highlights it. And you'll notice I have 3 of these firework shapes, which Jeannie and I were talking that our colleague called them willow. I didn't know they were called willow fireworks, but it makes perfect sense. They look like weeping willows. So 3 of these red willow fireworks together. And when I mapped up my composition by thinking of where I wanted those to be. I chose an odd number because to me, that's usually an easier way to create a dynamic composition when you have your dominant focal point in odd numbers. Okay, so that's the idea behind that. And then we fill in with some blue, and blue with a white kind of sparkle effect. So we'll get to that, but I'm just telling you that because now I'm going to take my red, which is the cadmium red deep hue, and we'll squeeze about a similar amount to the ultramarine blue. And I don't know, you could say like either an inch of color, about a little less than a teaspoon of color. And you'll notice when you look at this, there are some of the stripes that this is right out of the tube red. Okay, this is the straight red, but next to it, there are some strokes that are slightly tinted with white. So what we're going to do is just mix up a little bit of a color, the red, with a little bit of white to get kind of a soft tint of red. I don't really want to say pink because I don't think pink on this, because it's still, to me, it's red that's reflecting, but you could call it pink if you wanted. That's just like semantics there. All right, so I have a little bit of white, and this is where you can take your palette knife, and we don't need a lot because I don't want it to be, you know, really heavy of a tint. I just want a little bit of a tint. And so this is about, I say, about a pea size amount of white. And I'm going to go ahead and take about half of that dollop of red and mix it with my white. And I'm one of those painters, I have to kind of do it and then adjust because I don't write down exact formulas. I just tend to not work that way. So I figure you guys can roll with me and mix as I go as well. But as I look at that, I'm like, okay, and I'll hold it up because it's probably hard to see. It's a little bit lighter, but I think I want it to be slightly more of a tint. So I'll take another small pea size amount and I'm going to mix that into that half. And I think that's better because one other little thing I'll do is I'll probably, as we're doing some of the finishing little highlights, I'll probably add a little bit of a dry brush of white on top as well. All right, so we've got two reds, one right out of the tube and one in a tint with white. Clean off my knife. And you can see just in the time we've been talking, the blue is already starting to dry. Okay, it's still a little tacky, but it will definitely be dry enough for us to paint on top of. And if we feel like that's not quite blue enough, we can again always add some more blue before we start painting on top of that area. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take my same brush, and this is where I want to show you something about, this is a Filbert Head brush. Round heads are the ones that most of us know about. You know, they come out and it's just the metal part is called the ferrule, and the ferrule is like a cylinder. Here you can see the ferrule has a crimp in it, and that flattens the filaments of the brush. We're going to take advantage of that because when we're painting the willow firework strokes, we're going to be using the edge of the brush. Okay, we're not going to be using the flat part. We're going to be using the edge. All right. So I'm going to take, I've got my composition in mind. I think what I will do, I want to repeat this. So I think I'm going to start with my first red firework here, then one here and one here. And you really just kind of think of it as, you know, these rays of firework light emanating from a central source, kind of like the center of a flower outwards. So I'll just take a little bit of the paint on my brush and I'll just start here, and I'm just going to put it down and then lift it up quickly. So I'll get it closer so you can kind of see. So remember, I'm using the edge of my brush, I'm putting it in the center, I'm bearing down, and then as I get to the end, I'm going to release pressure and lift up. And if I feel like that's not quite dominant enough, I'll just paint over it and lift up. And so it's really just a series of doing this over and over, kind of imagining your firework, how you want it to radiate out from the center. For some reason, this also kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss critters and their hair, but kind of like a hairy shape. But it's really, to me, it's bearing down and then flicking your wrist upward. That helps taper that brush stroke. So bear down, taper upward. And if you want to practice on your palette paper first, that's certainly a fine idea. But also don't worry if it doesn't come out exactly like you want, because these are fireworks. You can always add more radiating strokes to kind of disguise it or change it. That's another great thing about acrylics, is they're very forgiving. There's not a lot you can do to feel like there's no way to no return from an acrylic kind of process. So there's usually something you can do to get it more where you wanted it to be. All right, so we're going to start there with the, we'll leave that there, and I'm going to put another firework up here. Trying to get a little closer. So, all right. So I'll do the same thing. I'm going to bear down and then lift up quickly. Bear down, lift up quickly. And like we talked about, that idea of a willow. So you can imagine it like yarn or something, or hair in a ponytail, how you can have it tied at the center, but that hair is going to cascade down. So it has that center, but those firework, those rays of light kind of just fall down into the sky. And then a few, just like someone's unruly hair or my son's unruly hair, will kind of stick up. I'm sorry, I know I'm hitting the phone there, but. And so that might be a little big, and that's because I hit my phone, but that's okay, because when that gets dry, I can just do another stroke on it and kind of blend it in. Okay. All right, so let's go to the one down here. Bear down, lift up. It's very meditative once you kind of get the hang of it, because you can just keep making these repetitive marks, and all of a sudden it just starts to come together, which is always fun when you see that, right? Do another one. And another. And see if I can turn it this way. And remember, I'm using the edge of my brush. And I don't necessarily dip it in the red every time, because if I want a little bit thinner line, yeah, so that's something to say. If you feel like it's getting too gloppy, just take a moment and brush the brush into the red, flatten it, and then here, let me show you here. And you can see how that's going to be easier to make a thinner stroke than if you have a big kind of gloppy amount of paint on it, right? So it's just a matter of kind of playing with getting your brush to have not too much paint, but enough to get it onto the surface. Okay, if that makes sense.
That was a great reference. I like that. So how you flattened it out, because you're right, you have so much more control.
Yeah, that can happen without realizing it. That's like you get it all gloppy and you're like, I can't control it.
Yeah, it's coming together. Looks good.
Yeah, it's so funny how quickly it happens. All right, so I'm going to wipe off this color, but I'm not going to put it in water because, you know, now we're just going to go to the other red here. I don't really need to wipe that off. And you know something, guys, this happens to me sometimes if I don't make notes. I think what I did in the original is I probably added a little white to the ultramarine. So after we do the red, we're going to do that real quick just to make the blue a little more dominant. Okay. It was so subtle, I guess I didn't remember that I did that, but I want my blue to show up a little bit more. So we'll make that adjustment real quick. All right, so now I've got my lighter tint of red, and now just kind of in between some of the solid red strokes, I'm going to just feather in, or just quickly kind of, what's the right word? Whisk? No, not whisk. Sometimes I lose my words. Like, what would be the best word? Just kind of,
Yeah, it's like it's wispy or
yeah, like get a wispy kind of mark in there.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it almost has like the plumes, or yeah, like you said, all
yeah,
the rays. Yeah, the
yeah,
rays are starting to emanate from the center.
Yes, I like the idea of plumes. Definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty, very pretty. So yeah, the colors are coming together nicely. I like how like you're just going to adapt. We're going to go with the flow. So even more like, yep, we're going to put a little more white into the blue, because you're right, it's just a work in progress. So
yeah, and that's, again, that's why probably I love acrylics so much, because they, you know, oils are beautiful, and I think it's so great that we, as painters, we live in a time where we can have so many different choices. But one of the attributes I love about acrylics is they're very user friendly. There's just not a lot you can do to, you know, quote, screw it up or feel like that. So
speaking of experience, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, as I just hit with my brush. Yeah, so the reason, so this is you might find this interesting. The tradition with brushes for acrylic and oil is usually that, you know, when you're working large scale, you're standing back from an easel. So when you're working on a table, and especially in a case where we have a phone here, you know, that's why I keep knocking it, because it's a long handle. But what's great about the Liquitex ones is there is a finger grip here and a finger grip towards the back. So when you're working large scale, you can hold it back here and paint. And when I'm working up close, I have a finger grip here as well, or working on a table, I have a finger grip. The only downside is because I have a phone there, I'm hitting it. So that's why that's happening occasionally. Oh, I love that. Lighter red. It's looking even more electric than the first one. So
yeah, it is. It's really popping.
Yeah. It's just, see, even every day can be a different experience.
Your lighting looks fantastic.
All right, so I'll just drag a few down here because yeah, we've all seen fireworks and we know how it goes. It's like they just are these beautiful, powerful light shows, and light is in constant motion, right? So that's how I think of the fireworks. It's like they have an energy and a design that we're painting, but we also kind of want to put some of that life into it as well as best we can. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our blue down here, and we're going to take, so I'll mix it here. I'll take some remaining blue and I'll just put it down here. And then I'll take just a pea-size amount of the white. So I'd say that's probably a 1/4 teaspoon of the blue and a pea-size amount of the white. Yeah, I think that's going to look better. And that way, that titanium white, and I'm not going to do it the whole way because I still like that gradation. I'll do it to where I want the blue to be a little more dominant. So thank you for bearing with me on that. And we can just now paint over it. And again, I'm going to use more of a dry brush because I don't want to glop on too much paint because I want it to get touch dry so we can do a little painting over it. And also that's going to kind of feather it into the blue that I already have. And the thing too to remember about acrylics is as they dry, they get darker. And that is something that doesn't happen to oil color. Oils stay the same, but because from wet to dry state, but with acrylics, you just want to be prepared that the color will dry slightly darker than it looks when wet. And it seems like that can be annoying, but I've just found as an acrylic painter, I just kind of embrace the fact that, okay, my painting is going to look slightly different when I come in the next day because those colors are going to be drier and a little more dark. If you find that to be problematic as you're working, you can always take careful kind of recipes of color so you know exactly how to mix the color each day. So it, you know, if you're working on a painting that's taking many days, you know exactly how to mix the color to anticipate that darkening down, if that makes sense. All right. There we go. All right, I think this is going to darken the way I want it to. And for the one up here, I'll just take a super dry brush and I'm just going to really lightly feather this in. And I'm not going to worry about that it is covering some of the red. Sorry, guys, this is where we're kind of working on the fly. But again, once the fireworks are and the stars are in the sky, this is not super noticeable. I just like to have a little hint of it. Yeah, this is a very, very dry brush, not a lot of paint. All right. So hopefully you're with me on that. And then now we're going to proceed with the blue fireworks. And yeah, and if you're not, don't fret. As Jimena said at the beginning, this is going to be available for review. So if you missed a part or want to see a part again or whatnot, you can always in a day or two come back and rewatch it as needed. So be aware of that. I was always that kid in class who, you know, was super gung-ho about the project, and then I'd get lost in some detail and I'd look up and everyone was like 10 steps ahead. And like, what? Oh my gosh, I was zoning into this part here. But,
Right, you got into, yeah, you were in your mode, your
yeah.
but yeah,
Ready,
you
moved
drifted
on.
away. But you're right, that we did post it in the chat, 24 to 48 hours, and then it sits with on the Michaels platform, and then you could also access it through the Michaels YouTube. But it's like I said, you could sit back and watch it, because you said earlier on, it's very meditative just to watch, which I'm doing today. And then I'm going to go back as well and paint it, because I'm picking up some tips from you, from the group. I'm looking forward
good.
to, yeah. So
Good.
people are asking some good questions.
Cool. So what I did to make our blue fireworks now is I added about another teaspoon of blue. I just added it up here, and then I scooped most of that up. I always like to have some of my color right out of the tube, not messed with. That's just a tendency I have. I don't mix. I don't know. I think I like it as a reference or something, or usually in most paintings, I might want to add just a little bit of that color right out of the tube. So I will do that. I'll put the color down, and then I'll scoop it up and move it somewhere else if I want to mix it. But I'm just moving it down here just to have more space. And in this case, we want a slightly lighter blue than we have for this kind of reflective sky. So I'll take kind of a large pea size amount, and we'll see where that goes, if that's going to be light enough. And I think we're going to want it a little bit lighter for contrast. I'll take another kind of pea-size amount of that titanium white and just mix it about. And then let's just do a quick, I think I might need it a little lighter, but I'll just, yeah, I want it a little lighter. I'm trying to get closer to that. Let's do another amount. I do this a lot where it's, it's always easy to add more. It's really not possible to, unless you just start over to, remove any color. So it might take me 3 or 4 additions of white, but I just do that so I don't, as my mom would say, stub my toe and add too much white in the beginning. It's kind of a funny phrase. Stubbing your toe is like overdoing it. So I don't know. Is that just a Southern thing? I don't know. But all right. So let's see how we are here. Pretty good, but since I talked about it darkening down, let's add a little bit more white. So that's 4 kind of pea-size amounts of white, which I would say that's like a little less than, well, maybe like an 1/8 teaspoon of white to, what did we have? A little less than a 1/2 teaspoon of blue. All right. So there we go. And I'll just wipe off my knife. And my brush is clean. And so now I want to kind of map out where I want my blue fireworks to go. So I'll probably start with this one. These two are kind of more of a powdery blue. So I'm going to save those till last. So I'll work on this one, this one, this one, and this one as my quote blue one. So I'm going to start with this guy up here, or gal, whatever. Again, I keep thinking animal from the Muppets. So that kind of hairy head. All right. Do my flattened brush stroke. And again, same idea, emanating from the center. And this is where the real kind of, to me, fun part can happen, is now you can start to overlap some of the brush strokes. And that, to me, it gives that, like, because this would be probably the finale, right, of the fireworks, or at least I don't know where you live, usually where I live in North Texas, and we'll have fireworks for 4th of July, and they'll usually showcase quite a few single fireworks, or maybe 2 or 3, and then at the end they'll just release a ton, and then that's where you get the beautiful overlap of all the colors and the lights and all that. So I'm assuming this is, I guess thinking of this as like a finale kind of piece. And so you get to have that overlap effect. We're going to make this blue one come out a little bit, and then maybe over here a little bit. And so I'm even going to come out. So like in this one, I'm going to make a few marks not emanating directly from the center, but kind of just out from the outer edge of the piece, if that makes sense. And then something else to say too, do you see how my brush kind of split here? I like that effect. because to me, again, that kind of adds that kind of wispy energy to light escaping from a firework, right? It's not, I mean, there's all different ways to paint, but to me, that's a little more painterly way of showing this kind of a light explosion coming out from the firework. So, but you are your own painter, so if you want to make it a little crispier, you certainly can. So this guy, I'm going to start down here. And emanate downwards. Jeannie, do you have a sweet little bird outside your house?
I do. Can you hear it? I know. I know. I had this gigantic tree, this oak tree. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's so fun. Yeah. It's one of the, well, when we decided on this particular artwork, it was based on a patriotic theme because, you know, we were looking at a celebration, but a lot of the inspiration from fireworks are all the multitude of all the colors. So one of the artists mentioned that she's going to use like neon green, and we just did this for simplicity. So, you know, we just used a couple tubes of color because we're going to show more of the blending, but you could certainly add any colors you'd like and create your own unique fireworks display. So it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, these are coming. I love this blue.
Yeah, it's just that ultramarine with white. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And it's a soft color, but again, on the dark background, it really becomes kind of electric and super vibrant. So your background really does have a large part to play in how the overall piece will look too. And I'm making sure that I'm overlapping some of my red here. And I'm also varying the size a little bit. You'll notice that this blue one is a little smaller than these up top. I think that there's different ways you can think of that. Usually when you're watching fireworks, you know, they shoot up in the sky and they're largest when they first explode, and then they kind of, you know, kind of rain down and get a little smaller, or you can think of it as different distances. But obviously too, I think just as, you know, distances from the viewer. But I obviously think too that it's just nice compositionally to vary the size of your fireworks a little bit. All right. I'll do this blue one here. And really, once you get the hang of that kind of bear down and quickly flick upwards or flick away from that edge, it's just super easy, super fun way to work. And then each time I think without realizing it, I'm just flattening the edge of my brush. And some are going to turn out shorter, and I'm fine with that. And I might just add a longer one. And here I want to kind of overlap into that red. And I'll even add just a little bit there.
Those little pieces of the fireworks that are like trailing on those like pieces of light. Interesting now when you were starting it, when you put the middle color, and I was like, what's this going to be? And now it's coming together. It's almost like when you're at a fireworks and there's like that residue of all the different smoke.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Also reflections of other clouds in there. So it could be a number of things, but it really does give it dimension.
Yeah. And I think if you just have this, it doesn't, I mean, yeah, I think it's all those things you said. And I think it just unifies all parts of the painting together to kind of break up a solid black expanse there. So now we've got two more to add, one little one over here and a smaller one in the center. And all I did for this is I add a little more white to my already mixed blue. So in order to do that, I'm just scrape a little bit to the side. And I'll need to squeeze out some more of my titanium white. And I'm big on pea size amounts. So it's a pea size amount with probably a pea size amount of that already light value blue. And you know what? I can tell that's still not going to be light enough. So we're going to cut that in half and just scrape a small amount to the side. And now I'm going to add kind of a large pea size amount of white. Because the idea is I want this to look almost like a white firework, but still have it relate to the blue. So it's a much softer pastel, but again, because of the context on the black background, it looks really pretty vibrant. So that's pretty close, but I know it's going to dry darker, so I'll add a little more white. So we probably have 3 large pea size amount to 1 small pea size amount of that already pastel blue. Yeah, I feel good about that there. I think that'll be good. And then wipe off my knife. Let's take my brush. And I did clean it in between because I want this to be a, you know, more of that powder blue. So I did wash it in water. I don't know if I remember if I said that. But now I'm just pick up this very light blue on my brush. And let's do this one up in the top right. And I definitely like having a few going off the side of the canvas. Compositionally, that's another nice way to kind of break up the space. And feel free to turn your canvas around if you want to. I usually try to not do that, you know, during demos, but if that's easier for you, turn your canvas so it's easier for your hand to do the right motion for making the brush stroke. I want this one to be a little heavier, so I'm just going to go over that. And we'll do one other little wisp there, and then we'll come over to the center, kind of a little slightly off center. And I want this to be kind of small and overlapping. Make it a little bit tighter grouping. And yeah, so this is the other thing too. If you had a thicker amount, your paint may not be completely dry. And so don't fret if you accidentally picked up some red or whatnot, because again, when you can let the whole thing dry a little bit more and just paint over it if you don't like that, or it might have created a cool effect of, you know, just a visual blend of how these fireworks interact with each other in the sky. So, oops, sorry guys, I'm keeping the phone. All right, there we go. Now that I have this color on my brush, I'm going to add a little bit of it to my existing blue, darker blue fireworks, just to kind of carry that color throughout the painting. That's another way to unify a composition, is to carry colors through throughout. So like you would, you know, I'm not, anytime I say something as a rule, you know, artists break it, and that's the nature of art. But in general, if you have colors, it's nice to kind of distribute them throughout the canvas, because that way our eyes travel across the canvas and rest where we see something familiar or see a pattern of color, if that makes sense. So I'm repeating this kind of soft powdery blue with my darker blue relates to the lighter blue fireworks. And then we'll do that here. And in this case, I'm going to make it kind of the center part of the firework. And kind of try to make it look more like a, you know, just this explosion emanating outward. And just to let that kind of be a burst of this soft blue out of the center. So I'm just kind of quickly moving my brush to make these short, wispy, feathered out strokes. I'll put some more on the end. And just keep going with that. And we'll do over here as well. Hopefully you guys are having fun and yours are coming together like you want. This is a great project for the littles, for the kids too, because you know, you can see how quickly we've covered a large area, starting with that dark background, adding a little bit of the blue, and then these quick kind of flower firework shapes. You know,
Actually, great idea, Marla, because we do have some young artists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm anxious to see what everybody created.
Definitely. Yeah, it's always good to see how different
Yeah.
artists interpret it, because it's like handwriting, you know, we can all write the same words, but it's going to be our own look and feel. All right, so as I'm kind of scanning through, I'm comparing it to my original here, and I'm liking how the blues are looking more filled out. What I want to do now is I want to give my reds a little bit more of a center. So now this is where I'm going to come back and make a very light, this is going to be more of a light kind of pink. All right, so I'm going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to clean it in the water and wipe it off on my paper towel again. And just to keep it from getting sullied up with blue, I'm going to add a little bit of white to the side. Doesn't have to be a lot because we don't need a ton. So probably just like an 1/8 teaspoon of white. And in this case, I will take some of my red that is already lighter. And I'm going to add, gosh, just a super tiny amount because we don't need a lot. And I'll mix it in that whole amount because I still have some white there. And I find that this can be a nice way again to, it's kind of like white compared to the other colors, but it's not white, right? It's still, that's still that red emanating from that red firework. Okay, so yeah, so that's pretty good. So I'll mix that up. So it's a very, very, very light pink. I'll just use a small amount of it. Get it on my brush, and I have a very thin amount because I want these marks to be fairly wispy and small. Okay, but I'm going to drag, I just kind of have them, just like with the blue, I'm keeping my brush dry and I'm just emanating outward from the center. And again, it's that kind of white hot center of, you know, the explosion of the firework right in the center there. And we'll just have a few little wisps. And probably in this case, I'm not using the side, I'm using the tip on its edge, and just very, very lightly, just barely touching the canvas to get that very wispy fine look. And when I'm doing it too, I am trying to just curve my wrist slightly. So it takes a little practice, but again, once you get the feel of it, you just can keep going and going and going because it just becomes like second nature. Just keep doing it. And so you see how that quickly kind of snaps into focus, those fireworks, giving it that center and that kind of white hot part in the center. And I'll do this one here and just keep going.
Looks great. I just want to remind everyone that we did put in the chat that this class is being recorded and it'll be available in 20 to 48 hours. But one other thing that we want to remind you is that you'll also get an email asking how you, in your opinion of the class and of Marla and of the artwork that we created tonight. So we'd greatly appreciate your feedback. So when you get that email, we would love to hear from you. And in the end, what we're going to do is we're going to try to get everybody to put up their artwork so that I could grab a screen grab of everybody's creations. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know, Marla, right now we're at 10 to 9 on East Coast time. So just want to give you a time check.
Sounds good. I think we're going to make it. We are almost there. So I've just wiped off my brush, and the last things to address is we need, I need a little bit more of a center to my, these kind of more blue-white fireworks. And so to do that, I'll do two things. I'm going to add more of this blue that we've already mixed, the very light blue. And I'm just going to go back and do some very dry brush kind of wispy marks right in the center. And I could have done that when I did the blue, but sometimes I need to step back, you know, visually and look at the painting and then like, oh yeah, this is what it needs, right? So even though it's the same color as what's there, we're adding it later, you know, just because sometimes I'm talking out loud and I'm trying to share my internal process with you. All right. So dry brush in the center just to kind of give it that center point. And then now all I'm going to do is wipe off my brush. And now I'm going to go back to this darker blue. And I want to add a little bit of the darker blue to my lighter blue fireworks, again, to kind of tie them all together. So I'll just do that. Oh, we got a little bit much. I'm going to wipe that off. And then bring some to this little one here. Doesn't take a lot, just a few of those quick strokes. And that kind of unifies. Now these all look blue, even though these two are lighter. You can see how they all kind of work together now. All right, so in order to kind of give that effect of those tails of light going up into the sky, oh, I knocked my phone all the way off. Sorry, guys. What we're going to do is take our brush again. I'm just going to wipe it off. I'm not actually going to use water because I don't want it to be stark white. I want to save stark white for the stars. And what I'm going to do is put it in that lightest blue that we mixed. And I'm going to use the very crispy top edge of my brush. And at the top, I'm just doing some wiggle marks and then straight down. So let me see if I can show you this way. All right, so I'll start here. I'm going to wiggle, 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 and then down. Okay, and then I'll just keep doing that in a few spots. I'll do one here. So like a wiggle, 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 wiggle down. And let's do it here as well. Kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle down. And then let's do that same blue. Let's have it up here as well. Obviously, I'm not going to trail this all the way down. I'm just going to suggest that there was a little kind of energetic light source going up there. And it's amazing how our eyes, we don't have to do a lot, but our eyes can read that as, oh, that was kind of the light trail sending that up into the sky, right? Little wiggle there. Almost like balloons, but not. We know they're not balloons, but it's kind of that connection to the source. Now I am going to, this is a subtle difference, but I think when you look at your painting up close, it's a detail that you'll appreciate. I wipe the paint off. I'm going to clean my brush. And now I'm going to put it in the light pink, which almost looks white, but I'll put it in that light pink and I'll do the same thing with my reds. So kind of just a wiggle, 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 wiggle down. And another wiggle, 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 wiggle down. And we'll do a little one here. And that's a little too wispy, so I'll just repaint that one a little bit. So even though it's still light, when you look up close, that light pink versus light blue adds some visual interest to your painting by keeping them slightly different. And that's also going to give me the chance, now that I've got most of my little light lines in, I'm going to just quickly kind of assess the whole painting and maybe firm up a few of these kind of lines a little bit. And then the last thing we'll do before we're out of time is add the stars. So to do that, this is something where what I used was the end of a brush. Now what you can do, if all you have is the Liquitex brush handy, you're going to get some larger stars. Okay, so the way you're going to want to do that is just dip a tiny, tiny amount of that, the end of your brush into the paint. And so what I mean is you don't dip the whole end of the brush into the white paint, just dip a little bit. And you're just going to have to carefully do some dot marks without pressing down all the way. So you just carefully kind of add little white dots. Now it's a little challenging with this larger brush bottom. So if you had a different brush handy with a narrow bottom, like I don't know if you have a studio space or if you have other brushes, and if you have one that has a much smaller end that can make small stars quickly, you can do it with the Liquitex, and you just have to work a little more carefully. Okay, so get enough paint and just don't press down all the way, because if you press down all the way, you'll just get a big circle. And you know, don't worry if you did that, but I'm trying to make my stars a little bit tinier. Okay, so I'll just do that in a few areas and kind of clustering them together. Oh, so I'm painting my phone in the process probably. And then I'm going to add a few down at the bottom here. Just for consistency's sake, because this is the whole sky, right? This isn't the ground. We're looking up in the sky.
Right.
So I want to make sure stars are visible down here too. Okay. So that gives you the idea. I can probably keep messing with the stars, but I do want to have time to see what you guys did. So that's the idea with the stars. You can keep adding clusters, but if you guys have the inclination, I'd love for you to hold up your pieces so Jeannie can get a screenshot and see what you guys have done.
So I'll go ahead and put it in
wow.
gallery view.
Excellent.
There you go.
So do I go to gallery view here? Yeah.
You should see it on gallery view already.
Oh, there we go. Oh, wow.
Oh, they look fantastic, everyone. Thank you for sharing. Oh, what a great, I'm glad that everyone was it was like a joyful project. I think everyone really expressed themselves.
Oh, very cool. Yes.
Yes.
It's
Great
awesome.
job, Marla. That was, you had so many people were just chatting about how relaxing and happy they felt about it. It's in a good spirit. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Good.
Very nice.
So happy. Yeah, you can see the joy coming through. That's so great. Yay. Oh, and I love seeing, that is awesome, guys. Wow. And all the different interpretations. So cool. Thank you so much. All right. Well, so now the fun part is you let it dry and then you hang it, or you give it to whoever you want to give it to, and then they can enjoy it, and then you can make more. So that's the beauty part of painting. You can make it for yourself and share it as well. So I appreciate you guys sharing your evening with me, and had a great time painting with you. And I'm so glad that thank you for the kind words I'm seeing. I had a great time with the class also. And Jeannie and Jimena, thank you so much. And I'll just look forward to the next class with you guys.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Marla. Thank you everyone for joining. Stay well and keep painting.
Keep painting. That's right. Thanks.